Wednesday edition of the After Show. You got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice over here on the West Coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is Wednesday's child is full of, whoa, Nelly Wednesdays. Oh, my God, Wink.
Yeah.
Before we really get into it, how are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. It is 32 degrees, so we're right at the freezing point there. And probably be there most of the day, to be honest with you. Reminder to get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat, so click that, join us there.
And, of course, just to the leftish of the chat room link is the Contribute Donate button. Thank you for hitting that. There's a Patreon link, and I believe that if there's not one for PayPal, now there will be, so that you have a choice.
Yeah, we're working on it. We'll have it on probably by Friday.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean,
Friday.
we are sometimes, don't want to say locked into using PayPal, but we have to make the choice sometimes ourselves. But the less that we give to Peter Thiel, I think the best.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
But regardless, thank you, however and whatever platform you utilize. And also, after show pods can be had by way of Spreaker.com.
Yep.
That's the raw data file. It comes up pretty much immediately. And then the perfected pod will be available on Podbean sometime later.
Yep.
But it's all there for your perusal, and thank you for doing that. It seems like people want to listen to it. Okay. Hey, Wink here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon. There's still snow at altitude.
Oh, yeah.
But it's right now 50 degrees, and we're supposed to go up to 60, rain all day.
Huh?
So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just
58 too bad.
I was thinking, wow, I guess spring is well on its way, but there's still snow in the hills, which you would expect, and you would expect it, where I live, into March even.
Right.
But we'll see. Seems a little warm to me.
Well, they're calling for rain here, but I mean, when at 32, I don't know. You get that mix of snow and rain. It really doesn't just rain; it usually gets snow with it. So yeah. So that's not much fun, but you get what you get,
Well, speaking of rain, it seems like it's raining Russians right into the Oval Office, Wink. Jeez.
Yeah. There's a connection there, I think, yeah.
And
sadly.
And I wouldn't say that I'm astounded, maybe disappointed a little bit that the general GOP response, basically the shorter version is,
they don't care.
Hey, Russians helped us win. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, exactly. Bring them over. Yeah.
I'm serious. You'll know that they're totally Russian dupes when they decide to change the House and Senate to the Duma.
Yeah. Yep.
Then we'll know. And I don't know. It's this is the other thing. I don't understand how politicians today really think that they can rely on American amnesia.
Right.
A Republican said with a straight face just not very long ago, with a straight face, Wink, complaining about these illegal leaks meant to discredit Trump, right?
Yep.
With a straight face said, were there any leaks about Hillary Clinton meant to discredit her? No! Like we forget. And you don't have to really remember because it's all there. It's all there. Oh, my God. Well, these are the issues that we will be attending to today. Sort of, backhanded slap at... I don't know, our man Flynn. My God. Hey, Trump promoted a dangerous anti-vaxxer myth while discussing autism with educators. I guess that went over well. Russia says they will never give back our territories. as Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is set to meet Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Germany at the G20 ministerial meetings tomorrow, Wink.
How about that? Yeah.
Yeah, but all the real business is done at Davos, between hot toddies and, your aides taking a spin on the slopes.
Yeah.
And deja vu is just a shorter way of saying Russia denies interfering in the French presidential elections, utilizing cyber attacks, propaganda trolls, and fake news. Didn't do it. I don't know.
Man.
Seems like we've been through that before. I don't know. And for the last half, we visit, and this is ostensibly a weekly thing, and we should be visiting with Angela Marx, also known as Angie in Washington State.
Yes.
I want to ask her about what she might know of this lawsuit that is being drawn up against ICE for their detaining a dreamer. That's something that just come up. And of course, he's Hispanic. Right. I got to tell you, whenever an Hispanic is arrested in my neck of the woods, and it's a pretty redneck part of the woods here in Oregon, they're always colored, no pun intended, with the term gangbanger.
Yeah.
Gang member, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And then they find out later, I don't know, he looks like one, doesn't he? Doesn't he look like one? That's what they're always left with.
Yeah.
So that's what they're coloring this fellow with, young fellow, 23. Came here just before he turned 7. Nice, huh?
Yeah.
So I'd like to pick her brain about that, see what she knows. Plus, there's some other news about, because there's a lot of pushback emanating right out of Washington State. And I think she can tell us a few things about that. And all that, plus the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar and more. There's always more, folks, here on the After Show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast, and his name is Wink. Yes, with his attendant, East Coastal elitism. I guess it goes without saying, but I will say it anyway. And this fellow all the way back over here on the West Coast, and my name is Justice. And if you can't figure it out, my elitism is not bound by any geographical limitations. Oh,
Yep.
no. Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm one of those world citizens, the most hated here in our xenophobic America. And I love it. I do. And so, therefore, we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish, a little smidgen more often in this particular tear in the fabric of space-time, because as a great Telly Savalas in his character Kojak would say, who loves you, baby?
Exactly.
All right. Packing in a lot of pop history in just a few words.
Yeah. That's
Trying. And some people might just call it scatterbrained. But, you do what you do with what you got. It didn't seem that long ago that these kind of charges would have gotten people taken to the electric chair. I'm serious.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I was thinking, the Rosenbergs in many respects were sent to the electric chair for less than what's going on now. I mean, they weren't over there trying to, fix policy. Yeah, they got caught up in the Red Scare, right? And they were Jewish, and you know how that goes. But I don't know. I mean, I guess we've changed.
Apparently. I guess. I don't know.
No, I'm not saying that we need to be barbaric and bring the electric chair back. I'm just saying that the outrage I'll just say, the outrage I would expect from some of my, redneck part of the woods neighbors is sorely lacking. And you know why, Wink? Because they're not hearing about it.
Could be.
They are not hearing about it because they are in their silo, right? I hate these terms, but it's apt. They're in their silo. They only watch Fox News.
Right.
They only are, they're corroborated at the places that they go to. So that I gotta admit, maybe the coffee shops and the farmers markets and the growers fairs and the places I go to might be a silo also, I suppose. Oh, but they aren't hearing about it. You know what we are hearing about, for instance, because Sinclair Broadcasting has a big footprint where I live. I'm seeing a lot of Gorsuch ads
there you go.
from this white woman who purports to have worked in the Obama administration. Yeah, she probably worked in the Obama administration, but not for the Obama administration.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of those.
Yep.
Did you serve in Vietnam? I served during Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You got to make that distinction.
Yeah, you do.
So I'm just saying, she said, you could trust them. And I always say, well, how many times have we heard that before from that particular part of the political spectrum? So we're getting that. But the, Russian sabotage of the very underpinnings of the great experiment, it's almost like, the Ruskies came in during, like in Red Dawn, and we woke up one day and all the media's taken over. The mayor's picking up people that might be troublemakers, taking them out to the rock pile. Weak. Okay, dangerous anti-vaxxer myth. What's up with this guy? Oh, I remember. He gets his information from InfoWars, right? Losing Flynn, I want to know, does this guy Kellogg, the interim, and NSA guy, or, the National Security Council NSC guy stepping in place of Flynn, is he Looney Tunes enough for Trump? I'm serious.
Yeah.
Because, if all of your policy is derived from Breitbart and InfoWars, you got to be Looney Tunes to be able to accept that, right? Oh, this is an article by Tanya Ganova out of Raw Story. Thanks to early publicity generated by celebrities like Jenny McCarthy and public figures like, sadly, in this reporter's opinion, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the anti-vaxxer movement endures, seemingly impervious to ongoing efforts by scientists to debunk its underlying assumption, the idea that vaccines are linked to a rise in autism. Today in meeting, today, this would have been yesterday, I believe. Yes, indeed. Yesterday, in a meeting with educators, the guy who calls, what's the term now? The so-called president. That's it. So-called president of the United States. And it's supposed SCROTUS. So-called I don't know how it works. Okay. Revealed he might buy into one of the biggest myths perpetrated by opponents of vaccines. This is crazy. Have you seen the big increase in the autism with children? In the autism. That's always a clue when they drop that indefinite article in there. Yeah. Trump asked a principal who works at a special education school. When she agreed, the president launched into a spiel that suggests he agrees with anti-vaxxers' claims that there has been a huge spike in autism. I think that people in the field would say there's not a huge spike in autism, but because it's better diagnosed, there's a spike in diagnoses of autism. There isn't necessarily, and they have to account for this statistical anomaly. And one way to do it is better diagnostic measures mean that people get diagnosed with it more, not that there's more of it. There's that. Or it might just be simply caused by the noxious fumes that arise from this idiocy that these people perpetrate. Maybe that's the reason. So what's going on with autism, Trump continued, when you look at the tremendous increase? It's really it's really a horrible thing to watch. The tremendous amount of increase. Do you have any idea? Maybe we could do something. As New York Magazine points out, there's no proof of a tremendous jump in autism rates, and any rise most likely is due to heightened awareness. See? Told you. Which may lead parents and educators to seek out a diagnosis of the condition. Trump has previously alarmed scientists by reportedly considering Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a prominent vaccine skeptic, to lead a commission on vaccines. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes with the MO. You know, you appoint people that want those departments destroyed, right? Russian influence with the intent purpose to destroy America. You know, it's no surprise, right? Or on the other hand, you know, we've been fed this BS all our lives about what a danger Russia is, and now it's not.
Right.
You know, there's that part about it too. It's like, okay, well, screw you, screw your petty moralities. You know, we're punks. Russia says they will never give back our territories. Well, that's nice. And this is by Agence France Presse. Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov plans to meet his U.S. counterpart Rex Tillerson for the first time tomorrow in Germany, a foreign ministry spokeswoman said today. The meeting with Secretary of State Mr. Tillerson has been planned as being prepared to take place on February 16th, when both diplomats will be in Bonn for the G20 ministerial talks. Spokeswoman Maria Zakharova was quoted by Russian agencies as saying. This almost sounds like a machine translation, but who am I to know? Lavrov will... Oh, I keep adding an extra consonant or vowel there. I apologize. Lavrov will also hold his first meeting with German Foreign Minister Sigmar Gabriel, who was appointed last month. The first meeting between U.S. and Russian senior diplomats comes as Russian officials appear increasingly concerned at the shift in rhetoric coming from Washington, which dampens hopes that Donald Trump will drop sanctions and initiate other policy changes towards Moscow. Or I think what they really fear is he's going to get impeached a lot sooner than they expected. It also follows the resignation of Trump's national security advisor Michael Flynn over his contacts with Russian officials. Zakharova said Lavrov will discuss bilateral relations which were taken into a dead end by the previous administration. Oh, you mean the ones that were holding you to account for illegally taking over properties, territories that are now yours, you say? She went on. The plan is to discuss the main international crises which our countries have cooperated on and must cooperate, she said. Of course, regional issues will be examined. Trump spokesman Sean Spicer on Tuesday said the new U.S. president, quote, has been incredibly tough on Russia. Incredibly tough, wink.
Yeah.
Boy, I can't wait till he gets livid. And, quote, expects the Russian government to de-escalate violence in the Ukraine and return Crimea, end quote. Asked to comment, spokeswoman Zakharova said, we don't give back our territories. Yep. Oh, Russian military vessel 70 miles off the coast, wink. Emergency. Everyone to get from the street.
Yeah.
Serious. The Russians are coming, buddy.
Yep.
No, it's weird. ballistic missiles fired, with possible nuclear warhead testing capabilities out of North Korea. Same happening in other countries. It's like somebody's rattling the cage.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yep. I don't know.
But as Baghdad Bob would say, nothing to worry about.
To me, it's actually heartening to know that we have such a competent crew at the top that can attend to this.
Yeah, I feel safer.
But actually, all joking aside, some people are taking exception that possibly it is kind of weird in some ways. The intelligence agencies are the bulwark against the absolute destruction of representative democracy in a republic, right? I mean, it is kind of weird thinking like, what? There's a lot of danger involved in that, But I think that is emblematic of the extant patriotism. I mean, do we call us true believers in what this great experiment can afford us? The oath is not to the president, right? It's to the Constitution. And that's just an idea that we all hold in our minds, but I think also in our hearts, right? So when you got the heart and the mind together, you have the passion for it, and then and I got to say, career people tend to be fairly rational, critical thinkers, right? Tend to be. So you have this passion and these critical thinking skills, and what do you do next? You fight to preserve the Constitution. So I think that's where it really is that it's not just the intelligence agencies. It's also, low-level park rangers. Well, it's like deja vu all over again. Wink, my God, it's happening once. It happened twice. It's happened I don't know, several dozen times, even before we got to us. And I got to tell you also, Marine Le Pen, the fascist Nazi, running on the coattails of her even more fascist Nazi dad.
Yeah.
Has put out an edict, basically presaging how life will be when they take over. And dual citizenship is out. Jews who do not drop their dual Israeli citizenship are out. You can't wear the yarmulke or anything like that either. But guess who gets to have dual citizenship? Wink, yes. Russian French.
Ah, there you go.
Interesting, eh?
Yeah.
Very interesting. And this is by Kasia Kovacs out of the International Business Times. Russia denied meddling in French elections yesterday after a top aide to French presidential candidate Emmanuel Macron alleged Russia hit Macron's campaign with hundreds of cyber attacks. Jean-Yves Le Drian, France's defense minister, said last week French intelligence agencies were attempting to fortify cybersecurity surrounding the election. God, this is deja vu all over again. Remember this? The announcement followed allegations Russia intended to interfere in French elections in favor of far-right candidate Marine Le Pen. You might also add white nationalist to that description as well. And yes, Vladimir Putin is a white nationalist. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And of course, Marine Le Pen is sympathetic to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Intelligence agencies said they were concerned Russia would saturate the internet with bots, leaving pro-Le Pen comments. Gee, we never experienced that in our own little realm, did we, Wink? I could always tell they were bots, too. Ask them who lost the 1948 World Series. If they can't answer it, they're definitely not Americans.
No.
Everybody can tell you who won, but no one can tell you who lost. Cleveland Indians. Cleveland. Okay. Official Moscow has never engaged in this, does not intend to engage in this in the future, and is not going to put up when someone is trying to interfere in our own affairs from outside. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. I love this name. He definitely is a Peskov, isn't he? Dmitry Peskov spit. That's how I would write this. According to the state-run Russian news outlet, Sputnik. Yeah, when you've been like RTing and liking Sputnik, yeah, just be careful. Yep. Macron's party chief also said his candidate was the target of a, quote, fake news, end quote, campaign from the Russian media, including Sputnik and Russia Today. Okay. I should mention, we do play Tom Hartman, but it's his big picture that is on RT, and I'll just take Hartman at his word. RT gets no editorial control, but RT is also tasked for, putting out any kind of news programs that might be critical of any part of the American scene, because that's part of their whole disinformation campaign, destabilization campaign. I mean, it's long running, right? But the radio part is not part of RT, so just letting you know. Emmanuel Macron, head of the political movement En Marche, or Forward, and candidate for the 2017 French presidential election, attended a political rally in Lille, France yesterday. And let's see. Two big media outlets belonging in the Russian state, Russia Today and Sputnik, spread fake news on a daily basis, and then they are picked up, quoted, and influence the democratic process. Richard Ferrand, Secretary General of Macron's En Marche party, told Reuters on Monday. Russia Today, which is also funded by the government, denied the claims, so it must be true. Yeah, both RT and Sputnik denied that there were no secret talks or any kind of quid pro quo between Flynn and the government out here. No. Yep. Macron, centrist, is the front runner in the French elections. A poll released last week indicated. The poll predicted Macron edging Le Pen, with Macron receiving 25% of the vote in April and Le Pen receiving 23%. Because of Macron's pro-Europe stance, he is seen as a challenge to Putin. Claims of Russian interference in the French elections may sound like a case of déjà vu for Americans. In December, U.S. intelligence agencies concluded that Kremlin interfered in the U.S. presidential election by hacking into emails from the Democratic National Committee. And I should also say propaganda trolls, fake news, and a little bit of help right there at the top of the campaign. Quid pro quo. It does stretch the credulity factor quite a bit. That Flynn on his own, right? Flynn on his own decided to have these talks with the Russians about this particular issue that, they're talking about, right? No. He's like the ambassador, isn't he? He delivers a message. And that's where it's all going to come down, Wink, because it's always the cover-up that opens up the can of worms.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Okay. So when we start hearing about illegal leaks, and I posted a picture of him talking out loud for all these $200,000 membership to to be dining with Trump at Mar-a-Lago with their cell phones and their flashlight apps that can be hacked, talking about state secrets. I think the leaks are coming, in every fashion. All right, let's get to our Jim Hightower break, and hopefully we'll be able to connect with Angie. Then we'll come back and go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Co's community calendar. Oh, yeah, events are growing. The year's just starting, okay? But we're getting some events coming up. And then we'll have a conversation with Angie after that. You are listening to The After Show on Netroots Radio with Lincoln Justice, and we will be right back.
By gollies, the Donald delivers. Trump and his new blue ribbon panel of working-class champions have announced a bold initiative to create millions of American jobs. A spokesman for the panel, Steve Schwarzman, praised Trump as a leader who wants to, quote, do things a lot better in our country for all Americans. Wait a minute, Steve Schwarzman? Isn't he a billionaire hedge fund huckster on Wall Street? Yes, and holy money bags, there's Jamie Dimon, head of scandal-ridden J.P. Morgan Chase. Working-class champions? Trump's whole jobs panel is made up of Wall Street banksters and corporate powers like Walmart that are notorious for laying off and ripping off workers. Trump, the candidate, fulminated against such moneyed elites, calling them, quote, responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class. But now, in a spectacular flip-flop, he's brought these robbers directly inside his presidency, asking them to be architects of his economic strategy. Worse, he's doing this in the name of helping workers. Hello, to develop policies beneficial to working stiffs, bring in some working stiffs. But not a single labor advocate is on his policy council, in his cabinet, or anywhere near his White House. Thus, the so-called job creation plan announced by Trump and his corporate cohorts doesn't create any jobs, but calls instead for, ta-da, deregulating Wall Street. These flim-flammers actually want us rubes to believe that freeing banksters to return to casino-style speculation and consumer scams will give them more money that they can invest in American jobs. This is Jim Hightower saying, do they think we have sucker wrappers around our heads? Trump's scheme will let banks make a killing, but does not require them to invest in jobs, so they won't. There's a name for this, fraud.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back. And thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Lincoln Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River. In the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York. 21 on the East Coast. That's right. Every district is in play. Every district needs to be fought for. Angie is in the great state of Washington. And our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the After Show, to span the globe, the solar system, past the Oort cloud, into frozen interstellar space, through the bridge of stars, and beyond.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What is it? Speak a soliloquy and carry a big shtick.
Something like that, yeah.
We do that. That's called radio. Okay, today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast Community Diary is facilitated by Forrester Bob. And he leads off the diary today with No Left Turns is the title. UPS has changed their protocol and have designed their vehicle routing software so that you only make right turns. And it makes sense. A lot of idling, waiting to make a left turn. Their time management study showed that only 10% of the trucks were making left turns. And yet they purport to save 10 million gallons of fuel and emit 20,000 tons of less carbon while delivering 350,000 more packages a year.
There
But
you go. Yeah.
on the other hand, making a right turn, then a right turn, a right turn to get where you're going, and then another right turn. I don't know. That might be wearing out the tires.
There you go. Yeah, it could be that. Yep.
It all balances out.
Yep.
I got to tell you. All right. Northern Pennsylvania Cossacks will be meeting up this Saturday, February 18th at 6 p.m. at Latino's Restaurant, 1315 Parade Street in Erie, Pennsylvania. Come on, if we can do it in Erie.
Yeah.
That is just so romantically, classically American.
Yeah.
Get a hold of Gizmo 59 to RSVP by Cosmail. Colorado Community Cossacks, run by Left-Handed and Colorado Tim, of course, have their Caffeinating Liberally meetup every fourth Saturday of every month. And they meet up this month on February 25th at Common Grounds Coffee House, 44th and Vallejo in Denver from 9 a.m. to noonish at the table by the piano. So Cosmail, Left-Handed, or Colorado Tim. LA Cossacks are going to meet up for the March for Science in Los Angeles on Saturday, April 22nd, Earth Day, from 9 a.m. to noon. Cosmail Susans to connect and march as a contingent. And also mark your calendars, June 30th through July 2nd. Thinking Fella and Ojibwa are organizing the third Epic Glacier National Park meetup. And there's an important planning details that you'll need to know at the link for that diary at the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast Community Diary. So that is your Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast Community Calendar for the 15th of February of 2017. And this is the day I like to call the day after Valentine's Day.
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
This is where we all got to check our blood sugar because we were eating all that Valentine candy instead of our betrothed.
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Snuck a
Well,
couple.
Angie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a crazy week, and it's looking like it's going to be another crazy week next week.
Yeah, I've always felt I had tremendous stamina for these kinds of events, right? In fact, I felt that I had been preparing my whole life for something just like this, never expecting it to happen except in some fictional, dystopian story that I could never get published, right? Because it was too outlandish.
Yeah.
But regardless, I figured, I've got all the attendant skills and it's too much for me. It's like, man, it's come so hot and heavy. It's like, ee.
Well, I don't know. I think there is a silver lining in the Trump the Trump apocalypse, because in my Democratic Party county meeting, which was Monday night, in 2013 we had 40 people at meetings.
Wow.
Last night, 150.
Yep.
And there are indivisible groups everywhere who are breaching the walls, the third wall between people and Congress by, they're hounding their Republican representatives right out of buildings these days.
How about that?
It's not normal time. It's not normal times.
Right.
And around here, we're going a step further. Planned Parenthood is sponsoring Lobby Day on February 20th here in Washington State from the 3rd District. We're going to be taking buses north to Olympia to beard the legislators in their den.
You know, I live in an area, and this is part of a problem sometimes because, I don't obviously get out and about as much as I used to. So I'm left with, my immediate experience, and there tends to be some intractable types. And earlier I had made mention that, they only get their news from Fox, and Fox hasn't been mentioning anything about, the scandals erupting out of this White House. And it's then on the local level, we're dominated by Sinclair Broadcasting. So we get Gorsuch ads and David Horowitz's new book about how Trump will secretly save America ads. And I mean, it's just crazy stuff, right? I'm left to think that that is a prevailing attitude. But when I really look at it, because not very far from, like my Democratic headquarters, I live in, pretty far on the border in the county, but is down in Medford. And the Indivisible group there is quite large. And Medford is not known as being, a bastion of liberalism in Oregon.
No, it's not.
and so I'm left to understand that really the intractable types are always about the third or a little less that has always been there, but they always have the biggest squeak, and the biggest squeak always gets the grease, always gets the attention. But really their power is outweighed by the facts. I mean, and that shows up in the raw numbers of people showing up to meetings that never did before.
I think it's this simple. For the great vast bulk of Americans, they're willing to put up with a lot of nonsense out of Washington, D.C., as long as their daily life can go along normally. But when our federal government starts to act like lunatics, people start to notice. And once they start to notice, they get outraged. And once they get outraged, they don't stop until something happens. So these events, they're not slowing down, they're ramping up. And they're ramping up because they're pushing for something to happen. And the cherry on top of it is Donald Trump is looking more and more like a Manchurian candidate every single week. Yeah. And he's only been in office a month. It's beyond crazy. I mean, but now it's obvious that that entire cabal has been lying outright for more than 2 months, since before December, apparently. They all knew that Flynn talked to that ambassador about issues which there is a federal law, the Logan Act, which prohibits that behavior from private citizens. Trump wasn't inaugurated yet. Flynn didn't have any authority to have those kind of discussions, and he's out the door. And they're hoping with him out the door, that story will die. No. It's not going to die. It's just going to get bigger.
It's really a cliche to say, it's the cover up that really opens up the can of worms. It's really what makes it worse. But that's only because the cover up does indeed open up the can of worms that shows, the egregious unlawfulness of things that have been occurring in our name. And that makes the electorate, and also people who don't get to vote, quite outraged. People who actually still contribute to our society, but because of whatever citizenship status, there's still this is something that we forget, or maybe people don't want to accept. A certain 30% fringe element will say that everybody's afforded constitutional guarantees here. No matter who you are, your citizenship status, your so-called illegal status, there aren't second-class rights. Now, in effect, there are, but not codified on the constitutional level, and really even the statutory level. So,
this country's always had a class of people it treated like second class.
Right.
And at one time it was codified into the Constitution, but, first it was Black Americans.
Now it's not. So, I keep hearing about white nationalists and, KKK types all being emboldened. That's fine and dandy. Of course, we would expect that. But in the short amount of time as well, we have a police agency, a federal police agency, rounding people up who seem quite emboldened suddenly to, I don't know, or maybe we're just seeing it more, because there were certainly roundups during the Obama administration, but there were different types of people that they were going after, not moms, and certainly not someone protected by DACA, which is happening in your state right now.
That's true, but make no mistake, in the Obama administration, they did deport mothers.
Okay.
There
were
a number of cases. There were numbers of cases of deportees. They just didn't make a lot of noise about it. They didn't do big, huge sweeps like what's going on now. Looks like what went on just before they shipped 40,000 or 400,000 Japanese Americans into camps like Manzanar in the 1940s during World War II. I mean,
am I being an Obama apologist?
It's like the brown shirts have been unleashed.
Right. Well, am I being an Obama apologist if I surmise that in many instances, the DHS, or at least elements in the DHS, have rogue, they kind of go rogue, right?
Well,
was Obama really able to put a cap on that agency? And I don't know. Once it's out there, you basically have to accept it. I don't know. I guess I'm being an apologist for it, but it's certainly different. Once again, in just the sheer, I don't know, brutality of it. I don't know. Taking moms and kids and putting them in cages is pretty brutal in and of itself too. So.
Well, when you look at it like this, there's a million people with top security clearance working under the various DHS agencies, right? When you have a million people deep in the secrets of the country, in the background, out of the limelight, working on things, there's going to be some behavior coming out of that people aren't going to like. That's a lot of people to have top secret clearance to be working on security issues in the dark.
Too many cooks in the soup, I guess, in a way, right?
How could we possibly need a million people working under top secret clearance?
Right.
On issues. We don't. Donald Trump is the president who fits our time. I hate to say it, but he's the kind of guy who loves to have an enemy. All of those people who voted him into office, they're the same kind of people. They love to have enemies, right? And our big enemy was Russia for the last century, basically. Only Trump has cozied up to them, so it's kind of making the country crazy.
No, we addressed that earlier too. There's a marked dissonance in, well, even if it was just propaganda, the Cold War, of course, right? Russia was our Goldstein. We recognize that, but if you really wanted to get down to, the actual aspects of geopolitics, yeah, it was probably good that we kept each other in check, right? the Russians were romantic good guys just as much as they weren't the romantic bad guys. But that in between is just as dangerous, and that's why we have the checks that we have. And now to suddenly say, well, that's not the case anymore, I don't know. That's shocking to the national psyche.
Yeah, kind of the worst part is in pursuing this kind of isolationist international stance, Trump is attacking, literally in public, a third separate branch of government. I mean, he's trying to denigrate the bench, the federal bench. It's crazy. He seems to think that the federal bench is not a separate branch of government, that it's somehow beholden to the executive branch, and he's seriously mistaken.
Well, that's right out of the Idiot's Guide to Petty Dictators. I mean, And since it's so transparent, I mean, that's why it mobilizes the raw numbers that we see of people showing up at these local meetings. And because I don't know, this is the romantic part of me coming out, because I think that people are imbued with a natural patriotism to this great experiment, and whenever they see it wrenched away, we saw it during Vietnam, when that great part of middle America who were just hunkered down doing their jobs looked up and said their sons and daughters were being slaughtered, and why? Then
for nothing.
And then the Vietnam War started winding down, right, until it stopped. And the same thing's happening now. I mean, people are generally just hunkered down trying to do their jobs, pay off their mortgages or their rent, whatever, are now suddenly impacted, not really by vast numbers of death, but the actual wrenching of their way of life on an ideological level. I think that to me is heartening, because...
Well, when you look at the last 40 years, the middle class has shrunken significantly. We have a generation now with lowered expectations, the first time in living memory that that's occurred in this country. And on top of that, we've got a crazy ideologist running the federal government. And he brought a whole bunch of people along with him who think crazy things just like him. That is a recipe for revolution. There's just no other way to look at it. If you look around at Indivisible and all these actions going on, if that doesn't look like a political revolution out in the open, you're blind. That's what I think.
Well, see, the thing is that terms like revolution and coup are freighted with a particular meaning of military or violent force. But,
the pen is mightier than the sword.
I was just going to say, there used to be an argument, well, you can't call it, quote, the sexual revolution. But what revolution means is like, a more immediate change instead of the slow change of like water on the ocean wearing away rock. That's irrevocable change, right? But it's not revolutionary. Revolutionary is taking the sledgehammer to it. But once again, there's a kind of violent connotation to it. What a revolution or a coup means is like a sudden change. This can be a coup without tanks. It can be done just with bureaucratic protocol.
A bloodless coup. That's where the phrase "bloodless coup"
comes from. There's been
many
a Latin American banana republic taken over in the same way, just by bureaucratic protocol. Someone knows the parliamentary procedure a little bit better than the other and is able to
slide right in there.
Stovepipe it, exactly. So, but I think people's hackles are raised, and I mean, we're 20. What are we? 27 days. 27 days in, and we're already 6 years into the Nixon administration. And it was only a few months or half a year after that he was out.
Well, like you, I've waited my whole life for this very moment to occur, for the sleeping giant, which is the vast mass of Americans, to wake the hell up and really look around them and see what is going on in their country. And a lot of them have actually done it now, and they're rubbing their eyes going, what the heck has happened to this place? I don't like it so much. And it's not just far left liberals. It is, I talked on the phone this week to somebody in the Washington State level Indivisible group who 20 years ago started seeing that her Republican Party was starting to get a little crazy, and as close to 6 years ago was still a Republican, but she is not a Republican anymore because she thinks her party has lost its mind. There are plenty of people out there who are still moderate in this country. They don't like the far fringes on either side, but they recognize crazy when they see it.
Yeah.
So do we diffuse our efforts by attending to it as a multi-pronged effort, or do we try to hone it down into something, I don't know, more, I don't want to say more directed.
All I'm doing is I'm using every bit of skill zeal and effort I have to connect all of the various groups of people who are out there attending events via social media, Facebook, Democratic Party contacts, by telephone, by email. Every time I can make another connection between two groups of people who are active so that they can help plan and coordinate to work together, the bigger the activities are getting. And it's not just me, it's obviously in every state, because if you'll notice, 3 weeks ago there were groups of 10, 8 and 10 showing up at their congressman's office, and now it's groups of 100 and 200 and 1,000, like Jason Chaffetz had to look at last weekend.
Yeah, but
those numbers right down. They're going to continue to rise. That's why I'm saying revolution, because it's revolutionary in this modern era for average people to go out of the way to speak directly to their elected representatives at the federal level. It is completely revolutionary in this day and age.
well, also what's heartening, I would say also what's heartening is on a business level. I mean, sure, it's somebody like a Nordstrom's or something like that was going to make the news, but the amount of like small businesses who tend to want to be apolitical and not offend anybody are certainly stepping up in many ways in a similar fashion.
Yes, they're hanging signs on their windows, and they're
welcome
letting
here.
their employees have a little time off to go attend a protest. And small businesses, the Republican Party for a long time championed small business, saying they're the generators of jobs in America. But that kind of stopped about 15 years ago, and they started taking all the credits that they gave them to help their little businesses get on their feet and build a good base, and gave them to wealthy, mature industries like the petro industries. And they don't care about small business anymore, and small business has finally realized that. I know a lot of small businessmen, they're all Democrats.
Right.
They're not Republicans anymore. So the Republicans have lost a huge base of people in this country, too, and they gave them up to take on the lunatics who want to use armed occupation of federal property. It's just that the Republican Party has just lost its mind and gone completely crazy.
Well, this is another somewhat...
Americans will do a lot, but that when completely crazy shows up, they don't like it.
Yeah, this is another change I see, a subtle change. Now, of course, the National Chamber of Commerce is always skewed, quite right-wing compared to local ones. But many local Chamber of Commerces are standing with their own local businesses in a similar fashion. And you didn't really see that much political stance by local Chamber of Commerce skewing not so far to the right. To me, that's a big change too.
Maybe that's because local chambers of commerce had presidents, like our Vancouver Chamber of Commerce has had a Democrat president for about 6 years.
See?
You didn't used to see Democrats in those roles in local chambers of commerce. Now you do. We're kind of like those anonymous guys. We're kind of everywhere anymore.
No, I just bring it up because there's not really a group or institution that hasn't been touched or with this, and there's a response and an outreach that can be made. So,
well, it's because politics has now affected business at every level in the country. It's not just the big corporations. I mean, they got all the goods and all the news for a long time, but small business is starting, at least under the Obama administration, small businesses got a little bit of a break. They changed a number of the rules. They made some tax breaks available to small businesses that hadn't been for quite some time. They helped them a little bit, which is more than they've been helped in quite a long time. And this administration is probably going to eliminate the Small Business Administration, just like they're trying to get rid of Department of Education, Department of Energy. I mean, they'd like to see us with the Department of, War, and I think that's probably about it.
Yep.
Republicans.
Yep. That's all you need to know.
No, yep.
Well, Angie, we've run out of time. we'll just have to meet up with you next week, okay?
Yeah, there you go.
Well, okay. Let's hope nothing too crazy goes on between now and then.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we'll keep a ledger, and we'll prioritize what is the least crazy, and we'll go then with the most crazy. So, all right, thanks so much. All right, folks, we better bug out of here. It is Wednesday, so tonight that means it's Jibber Your Jabber with Wink. It's a 2-hour opportunity for a live call-in show to Jibber Your Jabber. 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. And we'll have Hartman, of course, coming up about 6 minutes after the hour. In the interim, we'll have Paul Murphy's Soul Call playing. And so stay tuned. Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. Why? Because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink, I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're up.